The Protestant Reformation was the 16th century religious, political, intellectual, and cultural upheaval that splintered Europe, setting in place the structures and beliefs that would define the continent in the modern era. During these dark ages, God raised up fearless light bearers of His words. Men and women read, lived, and proclaimed the simple truths of the gospel, which today we take for granted. But at their time, they were forbidden and considered to be heresies. When they stood for this, they were ruthlessly persecuted and they were burned at the stake while singing praises to God. But the truth outlives all lies, and their influence spread all over Europe. The Lord opened the eyes of the English men and women, and they too began to preach the gospel. How about you? Has your faith been tested? Have you ever been pressed between two opposing principles, right and wrong? Have you ever stood for the right no matter what the cost? I am aware, for I am human just like you, that making decisions such as this is not an easy job. But when we are confronted by this reality, we have only two options left to choose from. Are you going to obey the one who offers you eternal joy and everlasting life, or allow yourself to go with the flow and compromise what is right to save your life? Mark 8:35 emphasizes, "For whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's will save it." Would you stand your ground even when it hurts? A famous writer supports this, and she says, "The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right, though the heavens fall." Well, you look around and see what's happening. Well, we cannot deny the fact that there are too many great things to see around us. But the reality is, even a place considered to be the safest place in the world, crime happens. Immorality is rapidly deteriorating. Family values are swiftly diminishing. The difference between right and wrong is becoming more and more obscure, and the pattern of society is getting stronger and esteemed by many to be the standard of their living. Whether we deny it or not, we cannot ignore the reality that this is the current condition of our society. The way we act, the way we do things, our principle, our reason is based on what we see and try to imitate, even when it is contrary to the Word of God. Have you heard the saying that goes like this? If everybody is doing it, why can't I do it? There it is. The Word of God is no longer the foundation of our ethical values, but what is seen on TV, on the internet, what is being done by a certain group of people or culture, and people try to find a way to justify wrongdoings and rationalize a certain immoral, unlawful act just to fit a lifestyle. And when confronted by the Word of God, we resist it and furiously reject it. Why? Hebrews 4:12 has an answer. "For the Word of God is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of soul and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart." Well, I read a funny yet truth-telling mockery against public schools in relation to crimes and violence happened in some places in the United States. First character said, "Why didn't God save the students from the gunman?" The other character answered and said, "How could he? He is no longer allowed in schools." It's a bit funny, but nowadays, not only that schools are banning the Word of God in their campuses by removing all His emblems and prohibiting students to talk about anything concerning religion. We show God away because the life He teaches us is against our principle. It is very ironic that the words of God are very offensive to many, but many blame Him when people suffer because of humans' violation of His words. Therefore, a great question is posed. Whom do we listen to? Or what do we follow? Acts 5:21 says, "When pressed between two opposing principles, here's what the true followers of God can say, and I can attest to that." Peter and the other apostles replied, "We must obey God rather than men." While the world cries for need of great leaders of our countries to transform our society. The Lord is looking for men and women to stand in His principle and boldly proclaim the gospel no matter what the cost. Would you stand for Him and by Him? God has a promise that when you stand your ground, even when it hurts you so bad, and even when you are persecuted because of your faith, He said, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when they revile and persecute you, and say all kinds of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you." Would you stand firm and take His promise? Does your faith enable you to face whatever challenges may come your way? Would you say yes when God invites you to stand with Him and for Him? Would you be able to say no when the world attracts you to do something that is wrong? May the living Word empowers you when you are tempted. May it gives you the strength when your faith is tested, and may it exalts you so you can boldly proclaim the everlasting gospel. See you again next time. This is Bernie, continuously inspiring you with the living Word.